Yo, what is good, people of YouTube, and welcome back to another video. I know it's been a very long time since I've posted on this channel, but new year, new goals. Something that I wanted to share that I found a lot of value in. This guy named Alex Hormozi, he has a pretty interesting story. He's been popping up. This message was really interesting, and I had my own kind of take that I wanted to share on it. The title of it is Why Trying to Be Happy Makes You Sad. Let's just get right into it and see what he's saying.
My wife and I acquired a $100 million net worth by the time we were age 32.
So right out the gate, he's talking about how him and his wife are worth $100 million by age 30. That's a pretty great accomplishment, right? Like, that's awesome.
And as a result of that, we had very different views and perspectives on money and happiness.
And so this is something that, caught my attention immediately. So this guy worth $100 million with his wife, different values on money and happiness, right? And so obviously money can provide you with a lot of freedom, a lot of opportunity in doing things you want to do, like travel, not having to worry about bills. But the next step from that is, finding purpose and finding meaning in what you're trying to do when you don't have to work day to day.
Like, this is this way. Like, I have this thought and it is. And you're like, and I've just accepted that, like, I'm always going to have this. Like, I would just never speak that over yourself just right off the bat, because like, you're just saying, I'm never going to get over this thing.
I think we say that all the time, right? The goal is to be happy. The goal is happiness in life, whatever it is. The interesting thing about it is there's a lot of choices that you can make in choosing to be happy right now, choosing to be grateful. And obviously a lot easier said than done, but I found recently I'm constantly focusing on the things that I don't have and the things that I'm trying to acquire. But when I took a step back from, going home recently and, stock market crashing and all these different things happening and the panic and the war in Ukraine and me personally being affected through events, I was able to take a step back, take a massive financial loss and realize that I have enough. I have enough to get by, and I have enough to pursue the things that I want to do. Like, taking the time to make videos every day is something that I can do. Taking the time to work out every day, to eat better every day. Obviously, all these things, we say we can do, but that execution part of it. Making these videos every day is also accountability. Making sure if I can make a video a day, if I can work out every day, if I can eat right every day, then I know I'll be on the right track.
At the end of the day, I just want to be happy. Like, when you admit that you just want to be happy, then what happens is you create a deficit between your current reality and happiness, which means that it doesn't matter what happens, because there will always be happiness that is outside of yourself.
So it's like, I won't be happy until I get the new house. I won't be happy until I get the promotion. I won't be happy until I get married and find a wife, And until those things happen, you're consciously, he'll talk about later, you're signing a contract saying, until these things happen, I am not happy. And I give myself permission to be happy once these things happen. And that's to motivate you to do that. But at the same time, it takes away from your current reality, which is what he's talking about, which is super fascinating. And it's something that I found super relevant, because getting at this point, you keep signing those contracts saying, okay, now I'm married. Now I'm here, now I have this job, now I'm doing this, and once I do this, whatever, and you keep pushing that happiness further and further away as you're accomplishing these things. So super interesting.
I mean, but I would consider myself
No,
happy.
he
didn't get that at all.
No,
Alex,
I got it because I'm like looking at Jack like, oh man.
But I thought, okay, so here's my interpretation of it. If I'm telling myself that I just want to be happy, then I will never be happy.
Correct.
That's what you're saying. Yeah,
Correct.
no, I understand what you're saying.
Right.
But I'm telling you right now that I am happy now.
Good.
So, but okay. Wait, Graham, do you still think I don't understand that?
So, like, deficits occur when we speak desires, right? And so I love this statement. A desire is a contract we make with ourselves to be unhappy until we get what we want. And so whenever we state a desire, like, I want this amount of money, I want whatever, you literally sign a contract that says, like, I won't be unhappy until that happens, right? And so, like, I had this thing earlier on where I was like, I want to have meaning. I want to have great meaning in my life. And I was talking to a guy who made a lot more money than me, because I asked him, I said, how do you create and destroy meaning in your work? That was the question I asked him on a podcast. And he was like, why do you think life needs to be meaningful? And it was the same exact thing as the happiness versus, like, the meaning thing, where it's like, I say life has to be meaningful, and therefore everything that I'm doing, like, I create this expectation.
So that's kind of, I found that hit me super hard, because I'm always trying to find meaning in everything that I do. I'm like, today I have to go to work, and what is the purpose of this? And I found a lot of value in bouncing around different jobs recently speaking to so many different people. So recently being like an insurance agent, for example, the past 4 months, I've got to meet so many different people from Utah and sit down and go into their homes and talk with them, try and help them with their insurance needs, their retirement needs, but as well as their financial situation and their financial goals, what they were trying to protect and where they wanted to be in retirement, what they wanted to do with the assets that they had. And it gave me a snapshot of the community of people in Utah. It was super interesting, and I get a gauge of where people are at in Utah, their financial situations, as well as their mindsets. I found a lot of value in that, but doing that, it's not my purpose. I learned a lot. I learned a lot of discipline, obviously having to stick to a schedule, having to do a lot of things that were stressful or hard, in cold calling random people for hours every day, making 300, 400, 500 dials, trying to get appointments with these people, trying to convince them that, hey, I'm just here to help. Get on the right insurance and the right Medicare. It was specifically Medicare, but also life insurance. Anyways, long story short, doing that gave me a broader perspective, but the meaning side, it kind of drained me of what am I doing? And like he's saying, there doesn't necessarily have to really be meaning behind what you're doing. Not everything has to be meaningful. And going this route, I really want to do this. Every day doesn't have to necessarily be meaningful, just sharing these things, it's interesting.
Whereas if life just is, it just is. And it's the only way that you can actually be there. It's just pure acceptance, right? Which is why like the whole like shoulds of like, we should work, we should have balance, we should X. It's like, I believe marriage is a compromise. Like these are just statements of belief that are casting expectations out in the world that are just bound.
And that's another thing that ties into, everyone has their own belief systems. I've met people that don't believe in insurance, that don't believe in these things. And it's a system of beliefs. It's like investing, some people don't believe in investing, so they won't, some people believe in having cash. Some people believe in having no cash. It's just a different set of belief systems, and it's what you believe. And I think the biggest next part of this video was judgment, which I loved, is we're all doing these things because we're worried about what everyone else thinks, what everyone else is doing, and we have to fit a certain mold so we don't get ostracized or we don't get criticized. That's something that I felt as well. Before I got married and before all these things, I felt alone, but a different kind of freedom and being the kind of person that I wanted to be. And now I felt like I had to mold to something else for everybody else. But as I've gotten closer with my wife and having these conversations, she's supportive and so loving and so understanding and still letting me find that balance of the things that I want to do. And this is it.
Be untrue at some point and then create dissonance. And so it's like, I believe marriage is marriage. And I believe my marriage is my marriage. And I believe your marriage is your marriage. And like, I believe
this is such another thing too, is my buddy, shout out Jacobo, is always trying to give advice. Everybody's trying to give advice about your marriage should be this way. Your wife should handle your finances. You should do this. You should do that. And it's like, that's toxic and that's draining as well when other people try and tell you how to do things, especially when you're not even asking for advice and they're trying to give it to you or force it upon you. Everybody's different. Everyone has their own things.
That I can work 24 hours a day if I want to. And that is all, period. Not, and it's bad or, and it's good. And there's no judgment on it. It just is. And so like, if I get dopamine secreted in my brain when I start working, cool. Like, and I will optimize for dopamine. And if I die, I know that in 1,000 generations, nothing I do anyways is going to matter. So who cares? Like, that's like the opening thing in my book is like, there are no rules. Like we live in this shoulds and have tos and like happiness. Everyone talks about it. And it's just like, everyone is unhappy because they say they want to be happy rather than being like, accepting like, fuck happiness. Like I just am. Period. And then like, I don't need to judge the am. It just is.
What do you say to that?
I don't know. That makes sense.
That's so good. That is an absolute gem. This is just the way it is. Accept your reality, try and make it better, whatever, but don't focus too much on the negativity or what everyone else. And that's hard. I'm literally struggling with this as we speak. I feel like I'm breaking out of that, but it's so hard when you have an immediate circle of people trying to, or not even trying to. It's just that subconscious need to fit in and need to not be different, because it's strange to everybody else and you don't want to offend people or you don't want to make other people feel uncomfortable, but you got to do what makes you feel right and feel comfortable first and foremost, and not be so worried about everything else. And I'm saying this for myself at this point is I'm realizing these things, and I need to do them for myself, and hopefully, that helps, or you can relate to that in some way, and that helps as well. So
one thing I noticed is if you're like, I just want to be happy.
Yeah.
Does that mean, Alex, that you think that at some point that will change for you or something, or you live with fear that will change?
I think you guys maybe are taking what I'm saying the wrong way. I mean, like Alex is saying, everybody has different beliefs, and there's no one rule fits all to everybody. And so if I say I want to be happy, that doesn't make me wrong. Like, if I want to live my life that way, that's perfectly fine. But the thing that what Jack is saying is, no, I am like happy. For me, I like to make like a conscious effort to work towards that. And Alex can live his life like life is life, my marriage is my marriage, and it works for him, and that generates happiness, whether he's like thinking about it.
But it doesn't have to generate happiness. That's the point.
Yes, that's the
there.
point. Yes.
But because it makes it, like, not because. It's like when people say like, hey, work, set these goals, and like the rest will take care of itself. It still makes the rest taking care of itself the reason that you're doing it, which means that it's actually not getting around it. When people are like, you got to be process driven. If you're like, if we focus on the process, the goals take care of themselves. It still means that the goals are important. So like you have to, if you want to make the transition from like a process driven life, which is like, I'm doing these things to do them, period, then so that I can be happy, so that I can have a good marriage, so that I can have a meaningful life has to disappear from the equation. It has to be, I do them, period, not because. I do them.
But then it goes back the other way. Like, but why? Because you say so? Like,
Because you want to, right?
that is super profound. When you take expectations out and you just enjoy the process, like, I need to set these cameras up. I need to do this. I need to do these things, not because there's money in YouTube, not because I want to get a lot of people to watch these videos, not because, whatever, I want to make more friends, or I want people to like me, or I want to show that I'm doing well to other people. I just make these videos to make these videos, and that's it. Taking the expectations out, because before, when it's like, oh, I want to get views, and I'm trying to do whatever it takes to get more views and more subscribers, when those things don't happen, you get discouraged. But the process driven, like he's talking about, is just, I will make a video every day. No expectations. That's just what it is. Like,
If you want to ascribe a meaning to why you're doing something, you can do it for whatever reason.
wow, this is deep.
So Alex,
this is what I spend a lot of my time thinking of, because I have nothing else to do. And this is what my last year was like trying to figure out like why.
He gets to have these insights, because at a certain point, when you have enough money and you don't have to do anything, you're totally free. I don't have to go to work. I don't have to worry about next month's rent. I don't have to worry about where my next meal is coming from, how I'm going to pay for all these different things. When that is set, you can focus on all these other things. And that is such a beautiful thing too, which is obviously such a privilege, because most people aren't financially stable enough to get to that point. But I just think it's super interesting when I think this mentality can help get you to a point where you don't have to worry about financial stuff, when you're focused on the process. I need to do these things, and that's just what it is.
Why I didn't have, like, I felt the exact same way while I had nothing as to where I have now. I feel the same. Like people were like, man, it was cool when the money hit my account. I felt nothing. Like, truly, like, not even like the 2-day high, like it was irrelevant.
How did you learn all of this? Was this through speaking with other people who've been there before you?
Thinking, my closest friend is a philosopher, and I use that in terms of like the actual meaning of the word philosopher. So like phile, to love, and then
this dude wasn't motivated by money. Clearly, he just explained how, when the money hit his account, it wasn't even like, oh my gosh, I'm rich, I did it. It was like, he's like, I'm still going to live my life the way I've been living it. He was just so focused on the process of building. And I think that's a huge takeaway, even for me. There's something that I'm applying is process driven, not results driven, not, the money, the whatever, all this other stuff. Just day in, day out, clock in, clock out, put the work in, focus on that.
Sophos is wisdom or knowledge. So like he's a lover of knowledge, lover of wisdom. And like we talk every week. It's like the only standing meeting that I have is we talk for like 2 hours and we just talk about life. And he's one of these guys who like lives in a cave. And it's like he got his PhD when he was 20, like just a very brilliant guy. And so he and I just talk about things. You
should share his contact information. Look for some guests on the podcast.
Oh, I mean, he's brilliant. I mean, if you like, Dr. Cashy is brilliant. He's the smartest human that I know in terms of like brilliance and their ability to communicate it in a simple way. And so he helped me get over a lot of the things that I used to struggle with, and a lot of it was just like the language that we use matters a lot, because like how we say things is how we think things.
This, thankfully, how we say things, how we think things. I shout out to my dad on this one. He was so big on when I was a kid growing up, I had to memorize the dictionary. So his idea was like I should have a well-rounded vocabulary, well-read, well-versed. Being a good speaker, being able to communicate your thoughts, like what you're thinking and feeling in a way that another person can understand is such a huge stress reliever, I think, when you can adequately get out whatever the tensions, the anxieties, and express those things in a way that the other person you can paint a better picture for that person, and not necessarily for them to give you a solution, just them, I can see what you're going through. I can feel what you're going through. I can somewhat relate or understand what you're going through from what you're telling me. And oftentimes, you can feel a certain way and lie about it or hide it with your words. People do that all the time. Sometimes I do it for whatever reason to protect my ego or something, but to really just be vulnerable and really express, hey, this is what's going on, I think is such a valuable, such a underappreciated skill. It's just, hey, this is what it is. And then another skill on the other end when someone is vulnerable enough to do that is to not judge, to just try and listen and to try and understand and to not even feel empathy or sympathetic, but just listen and try and understand. Not even try to help or give advice, just listening. That's the first thing, because I don't think, for me personally, everything that I've seen and been around is there's not enough of that. And I think that's where confusions and problems arise, is a lack of being able to patiently listen, really listen.
And so like what I was saying earlier, Alex, and this is not like a slight. I'm just saying like when I hear anyone talk, like on my team or customers or whatever, it's like people talk so many things over themselves and they're like, I don't know why I'm not successful. And it's like, well, define success and why are you not? And then what are the, Like, I just want to do this to be, like, there's so many chains that they put on themselves that it becomes very difficult to live. And so like, I spent a long time trying to not do that. And it was just because like I was unhappy and I didn't like being unhappy. And then I stopped judging myself for being unhappy. And then I stopped thinking about it altogether. And so I think that like, I'll give you a really real example for this. So one of the things that I'm vehemently opposed, and I'm like, no one give Graham flack, you can give it to me. And like, this is coming from a family who like had alcoholics and drug addicts and things like that. Like, I really don't like the Alcoholics Anonymous concept of every morning waking up and saying, I am an alcoholic, hi, whatever. And then they go into their meetings, because what it does is it puts it at the forefront of their mind, and they literally label themselves every morning as having this problem. When somebody who's not an alcoholic just doesn't think about it. They don't think, I'm an alcoholic, I have to fight not drinking every day. They just don't think about it. And so I think to the same degree that like living a meaningful life is not saying like, I'm living a meaningful life. You just are, and you're not casting it. You're just are.
It's crazy because I'm always like, oh, once I'm traveling the world, once I'm big on YouTube, once I'm in commercials and in movies, then I'm living a meaningful life. That will be a meaningful life. And that discredits every single day of doing whatever I'm doing, whether it's going to work, trying to pay bills, finishing up school, taking my wife out on a nice date. It discredits all of those things when I'm like, well, this will be so much better when I have more money, or when I have this, or when we have a big house, or when we, and it's every day is beautiful. Every day is on the come up. And that's even better than the end result, is the process, being process driven. How am I that goal is there, but it's not about the goal. It's every day putting that work in to do the things and being happy every single day as I'm doing these things. That's a choice. I'm happy right now as we speak, feeling free about my decisions and what I want to do, which is just make content. And help people in some way, starting with helping myself, looking intrinsically, like I'm talking, I'm speaking freely. Someone on the other end may be listening or may not be listening. It doesn't matter. This is what it is. I'm happy doing this.
But don't you think some of that is just that inherent belief that some people just have? They're raised from that. They have positive experiences that turns into a spiral. But the people who don't have that, who are used to every day being like, I'm worthless, I suck at this, I am bad at this. Don't you think that maybe that like first step in like getting in that direction is positive affirmations of like, I could do it. Isn't that like, that's better than zero? Like, I feel like we're going to 0 to 1. Like
I think it's exiting the equation altogether. So it's saying I am worthless, instead of saying like I want to be worthy or I am worthy, just saying worthiness doesn't matter.
But then wouldn't you get just people not caring at all?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I'm 100% a nihilist.
Yeah.
Like I believe that we die, nothing happens, and like,
Sure.
it is what it is, right?
So that's the part that I wanted to clear up with this part. He's a nihilist. That's his belief system. He doesn't believe in an afterlife. He doesn't believe in heaven or hell. It's just once he dies, that's it. There's nothing after that. Obviously, with my beliefs and being a member of the Latter-day Saint Church, the LDS Church, I believe there is a heaven. There's tiers of heaven, 3 of them, and what we do in this life does matter. It's like an exam or a test, and the priority is to be a good person. Obviously, before I joined the church, it was still be a good person, but there's a reason for it. There's a goal for it, that at the end of all of this, things will be good. Things will be even better than they are right now. But the process driven is be a good person without expecting I will get this, and this. Just be a good person. Focus on that. Focus on how you can help yourself first and foremost, obviously, and then help others. Because if you're not helping yourself, how can you properly help others, right? So not being selfish, just take care of yourself. When everything's in order, you can put 100% of effort and time into what can I provide for everybody else, because I am good. I am taken care of. That ties back into that, different belief systems, but there's still a lot of value. He may believe that. That doesn't mean this doesn't relate. There's a lot of gems in this, despite his different beliefs, that still apply regardless of your belief system.
And there are different ways to take that. Some people are like, life is meaningless and there's no point in any of it, which I would agree with them. And then the other people are like, there's no point in any of it, and so I'll do what I want. And some people see that as like very, very, very self-serving, which it might be.
I think there is meaning. I think in the day-to-day, there's always meaning. There's always meaning. It's just in the present, you may not see it. But going back to that, something that I always love to say is you can't connect the dots going forward. You can only connect it backwards. There's meaning in every day. And, when you look back in your past, like my journey specifically in joining the church, all the hardships and the trials that I was like, why, were all answered when I joined the church. All those experiences gave me a testimonial and a testimony of, wow, I went through all those hard times. It brought me to my low points and brought me to be humble enough to accept something that was able to answer all of my questions and to put me at ease and to give me something to be hopeful for in the future, and ultimately just make me a better person, and even solidify more so that being a good person is worth it. Being someone that is helpful is worth it.
But to the same degree, like you are released from the chains of the expectations of others. And most people, in my opinion.
And that's the thing. This is the biggest, if there's anything, it sucks that it's at the end, but maybe I'll edit this and put this in the beginning. If there's any takeaway, if you're listening, if you're distracted, this is the one part that is everything that applies to me that I think is very, very good at this time.
In my opinion, that I have witnessed who are unhappy is because they are weighted down by the chains of their parents, of their friends, of their siblings, of the whatever things, the people that they believe are casting judgment on them. And they care so much about that person's disapproval that they don't want to do the things that they want to do. And so I think it's easier to get someone to realize that none of it matters and then build from there than to try and flip the negatives. It's just to exit the equation altogether. Just say none of this matters. Therefore, I will start my YouTube channel and not care if my dad says that YouTube isn't real. Like, it's not about being worth it. Like, this is one where they're like, I deserve success. I'm like, no, you don't. No one deserves anything. But you can do the stuff that gets success independent of your deservingness. You can be a terrible person and become successful. So that person doesn't deserve it, but they did the things that create success. If we define success as some material, whatever. And so I think, like, if you can exit the equation of like labeling yourself and then just doing because what else will you do while you are alive? it creates some levels of freedom that allow for clarity of thought, and also for the ability to take risks that most people can't take.
For the ability to take risks that other people can't take. This is the stage that I'm in now. You know, I'm going to take these risks, and that's the choice that I'm going to make, you know. That's it. Anyways, hope you guys found value in that. I know this is a long video, but new format, new everything, new year. Appreciate it if you stuck around. Hope that was helpful. Hope that provided any sort of value. If not, that's okay. Don't have to do anything. Not asking for a like or subscribe. But yeah, appreciate it if you listened, and I will see you guys in the next one.